Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. As you know, right about now, WWE Evolve features, of course, many matches. Amongst them is a tag team rubber match. Adrenaline Drip, Cappuccino Jones, and Jack Cartwheel faces, of course, Riggins and Presley in a rubber match. So this is going to be a very interesting match. We even have PJ Vasa, who actually, as you all know, attacked Kendall Gray last week, and now she makes her Evolve in-ring debut. We even have, of course, Brooks Jensen taking on Mike Cunningham, as you all know, who is one of the newest WWE ID prospect. And of course, Jensen wants to teach the newcomers a lesson. And then, of course, the main event features Chantel Monroe taking on Wendy Choo. And then, of course, we move on with AEW Dynamite. As you probably can guess, we're only 1 week away for Blood and Guts. So we're going to have advantage matches, of course. Those who will have the odd number in the Blood and Guts matches. So we're going to see that. We even have, of course, Hangman Page teaming up with Hook and Eddie Kingston to take on the Ops. It basically is going to be a lot of interesting factors in here and plenty other matches as well. And then, of course, as always, we'll wrap up our episode, as usual, with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got to do Nike Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the jibber jabbers. Let's get started. So let's begin with WWE Evolve. Alright, WWE Evolve. We opened up with, of course, a tag match, and I'm going to presume this is a rubber match between two tag teams, of course. We have Adrenaline Drip, consistent of Jack Cartwheel and Cappuccino Jones taking on Harley Riggins and Jax Presley. Now, as you know, recently, these two teams have been facing off each other. First time, of course, Riggins and Presley won, and then the second time, Adrenaline Drip won. Now they're in the third match, so you can say this is a rubber match. And of course, they want to consider their last match was invalid, but however, they lost fair and square, and they will not admit it, so they decided to go in that fashion. And I have to say, this one, between them, the third match is far more better than the first two, and I thought it was a fantastic, a lot of high-flying spots on this one. You would have assumed that somehow Adrenaline Drip would have won, but however, apparently they were able to have a good opening when one, I forgot who made the spear on Jack Cartwheel, but just like that, it was completely over. 1, 2, 3, it was done. Now, our next match, we have Hayes Jamison. As you've probably seen her before, well, she faces against PJ Vasa. Now, for those who don't know who she is, PJ Vasa made her appearance last week attacking Kendall Gray. Now, it doesn't take a genius about what exactly she's trying to prove. Well, it seems now she wants to dominate, of course, the Evolve Women's locker room by obtaining the Evolve Women's Championship. So that's exactly what she's doing. But however, she's going to make an example on Jamison, and that's exactly what she did. She annihilated her completely. And she used a finishing move that they dubbed as the issue. And just like that, it was over. 1, 2, 3. But however, Chuy Martinez decided to do a post-match interview right outside of the ring to get a comments from her. But of course, as you all know, she is determined to get the one thing she wants right now is to issue the challenge for the Evolve Women's Championship. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, as you all know, Jackson Drake, our current Evolve Men's Champion, is determined to avoid not facing Kiana Carver. Now, Drake, on the other hand, does not want to challenge anybody. So basically, Stevie Turner felt, look, Carver had a right to challenge, but you decided to attack him. But of course, Carver was out of control, determined to break him in half. So basically, much of the episode is about that. But the ending we'll see, because apparently Jackson Drake was determined not to face him, but Stevie Turner insisted he has to. Because the problem is, they tried to steal the opportunity from him once before. But we'll see. Now, we did see, of course, Mike Cunningham having a nice conversation with Sean Legacy. As you know, Mike Cunningham is now being targeted by Brooks Jensen, as you probably can guess, about, being a WWE prospect just like him. And of course, he's not the only one who is also dealing with his own issues, and that is Marcus Mathers. Marcus Mathers, who's not had a good win whatsoever. But Sean Legacy told him, look, I understand how you feel, man. I lost some, I win some. It's all the same. But you got to learn how to pick up the footing that you need. And that's exactly what he needs to do. Now, we jump into the ring. Brooks Jensen takes on, of course, Mike Cunningham. I have to say, Mike did have a bit of the good opening of the whole thing. But however, things didn't go according to plan until somehow Jensen applied like some sort of a spin heel kick. But instead of jumping, he just rolled and boom, hit, of course, Mike Cunningham right in the back of the head. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was done. Now, we did see, of course, Chantel Monroe taking on Wendy Choo. In the last couple of weeks, they've been going face-to-face each other without getting into physical harm. But now, of course, Wendy Choo is determined to beat her up. And that's exactly what she tried. I mean, this match was fantastic. I mean, you would have assumed Wendy Choo, even though she had that loss against Kendall Gray, well, she was determined, of course, to defeat Chantel Monroe. But unfortunately, Monroe applied the perfect ending, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, after the show, of course, we did see Drake talk to Turner once again. Apparently, of course, he was determined to turn in the Evolve Championship, but however, he decided to do so because he knows he cannot let Carver win. He cannot allow him to, of course, have that title in his possession. But we'll see what happens. I know Jackson Drake has something up his sleeve, but we'll just have to wait and see. So, let's wait until next week. But right now, let's move on with our next and final review, AEW Dynamite. Alright, AEW Dynamite. As you all know, we are only 1 week away from Blood and Guts, one of the most brutal matches you guys ever get to witness and experience. But the real question is, who is going to have the advantage? So there's going to be a series of matches involving that. So we'll get to that as well. Now, we opened up with Tony Schiavone, who was about to make a major announcement, but was interrupted by the Ops. Now, you're probably wondering why. Well, as you all saw last week, Hangman Page somehow was able to sneak into the ring and dressed up like Tony Schiavone. So they thought that Tony Schiavone, the real Tony Schiavone, was in fact Hangman Page in disguise. But nope, he was not, because the actual Hangman showed up, but he had backup, and this time he had Hook and Eddie Kingston. But as you know, Hook has his issues towards, of course, the members of the Ops, more specifically Joe, after what happened when Hook was out of action and his part of the trio's titles was passed on to Hobbs. So he demanded a match for those belts. So that became our main event. Now, we did see, of course, the Blood and Guts Advantage match. Now, for the men's, we already witnessed who's going to be involved. We got the full force of the Death Riders. They face off, of course, members of the conglomeration. Amongst them is, of course, Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, and Darby Allin, who, of course, Darby's not part of the conglomeration. But, however, as you probably can guess, Orange Cassidy has always been a very unique, unorthodox wrestler. But, of course, when it comes to Claudio, we all know he is tough as nails. So, basically, he will try to dismantle him as much as possible. But, however, of course, he did the pop-up uppercut, and just like that, he took the advantage. So they need one more match to take the advantage. So there's going to be a 3 series. But if they win 2, well, there will be a third in Collision. So we'll get to the next one on that. Now, we did see an interview with Mark Briscoe. As you know, he's been asking for a TNT title match against Kyle Fletcher. However, Don Callis said that he'll give him one under one condition. And he said that, of course, that if he loses, he will have to leave the conglomeration and join the Don Callis family. Now, it's no secret that Don Callis is determined to recruit the best wrestlers ever, because he feels Mark Briscoe has gone soft ever since his brother's death, and he feels that he needs to unleash his full potential. But we'll see what happens until then. But of course, Briscoe, of course, accepted it, regardless of anything. Now, our next interview, Don Callis, as you know, is talking with the Bucks, involving, of course, as the match that took place, where there's going to be $1 million a 6-man tag team match, where the Bucks will team up with the Walking Weapon, Josh Alexander. Now, of course, the Bucks have not officially said that they will join the Don Callis family. They're like still thinking about it. But Don, you know how he is. He's very persuasive of what he's going to do, and he knows that they have a good friend who would they side with, and that is, of course, Okada. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, as I mentioned, as you all know, we also got the first ever, who's going to be the first ever AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions. And as you know, we already have one match already completed. But the real question is who will face the Sisters of Sins. And this match will determine that. We have, of course, Mercedes Moné and Athena taking on the Babes of Wrath. Of course, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale. Now, as you all know, there has been tension in histories with all of them. As you know, Harley had dealt with Mercedes Moné countless times. And of course, Willow had dealt with both Athena and Mercedes Moné on separate occasions. But of course, they're determined to try to get who's going to win. But of course, Billy Starks, who is one of Athena's minions, decided to show up and get involved. But luckily, Chris Statlander took matters in her own hands and took out Billy Starks, causing the confusion. But Athena ended up on the wrong side of the Dr. Bomb. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, Mercedes, Willow, and Harley are now in the semifinals. And they will face, of course, the Sisters of Sin. So that's going to be a very, very fun match. Now, as you all know, Tony Schiavone earlier in the day was trying to make a major announcement, and this announcement is involved for Full Gear that there's going to be a Casino Gauntlet match. However, this match will determine the first ever AEW National Champion. So basically, there will be wrestlers involved. But amongst them is, of course, the Hurt Syndicate. Now, MVP, as you all know, is a very businessman. But the question, of course, that Tony Schiavone, he knows how great both Lashley and Benjamin are. So he asked MVP, of course, which one of these two would win. But I think for MVP, he says, look, it doesn't matter, okay? They're both amazing wrestlers, very strong wrestlers. But only thing that matters, if one of them wins the belt, well, that means, of course, that the Hurt Syndicate wins in some capacity. And of course, it wouldn't matter because the fans would enjoy something like that. But of course, someone, this, or should I say, a group of people, had something to say, and of course, and that is their long-standing rivals, of course, the Man, Ricochet, and the Gates of Agony, Tail Leona, and Bishop Khan. Now, of course, it doesn't take two genius. What's going to happen? Well, they're probably going to enter the Casino Gauntlet match in full gear, determined to become the first ever AEW national champion. So we'll see where that leads from there. Now, of course, we do see a promo coming from the number one contenders for the AEW World Tag Team Champions, of course, FTR. Now, of course, FTR were determined to call out Brodito, but however, Brodito was locked in their own locker room thanks to that small weasel, of course, Stokely Hathaway, who is making sure that things do not get involved because apparently in the stands, Bandito's grandmother, along with, of course, Bandito's brother, Gravity, were there. And of course they decided to disrespect the family. But Gravity did everything humanly possible to protect his grandmother. But of course Stokely, while he was watching the whole thing in the ring, well, Brody decided to bust through the door with a fist. And then of course, like any horror film, Stokely Hathaway run like a little girl. Now of course, we did see FTR were attempting to do the spike power drive onto Gravity until they saw Stokely running like a little girl being chased by Brodito. And of course, FTR ran through the hills. And as you know, this is going to be personal for Bandito and Brody King for what they've caused. So we'll see what goes from there. Now, before our next match, we have, of course, the former AEW Women's Champion, Toni Storm, making her appearance in the ring because, as you probably know, she, along with a few others, will be involved in the first ever Women's Gauntlet match. Women's Blood and Guts match. And Mina Shirakawa, who in fact replaced Queen Aminata, it's decided to step up to face Megan Bayne. So whoever wins this match will get an advantage. Now there will be two other matches, but of course, like I said, if one person wins both matches, well, apparently they get the advantage. And of course it was Megan Bayne. And I have to say, Mina did everything humanly possible to face Megan Bayne and knew what was going on. However, at some point through the match, unaware, Marina Shafir showed up and choked Toni Storm. Mina saw what was happening, but because of this situation and lost focus, Megan Bayne put it through the running Liger bomb, and just like that, Megan Bayne won. And of course, all participants for the women's Blood and Guts match came out. And of course, Mercedes tried to come out, but luckily, Chris Statlander beat the crap out of her. So we'll see what happens then. Now, our main event is the AEW World Trios Championship. We have, of course, the Ops, Shibata, Joe, and Hook and Hobbs taking on Kingston, Hook, and Hangman. And of course, as you probably can guess, all hell broke loose with the Ops. Apparently, the Ops decided to put a pound of hurt on all competitors. Of course, they took out Hook, and of course, Hobbs took out Hangman on the top side of the stage and put him through a table, and not to mention leaving, of course, Eddie Kingston all by himself. But Hook, as you know, became the legal man. He ended up on the wrong side of a torture rack by Hobbs, and just like that, it was completely over. So there was a brief moment where they're saying that maybe Hook might have injured himself, but we'll see what happens until then. We know he was out, but now he's back, so we'll just have to wait and see. But as of right now, we are officially done with our reviews. Let's move on with our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's begin, as always, with upcoming events. First, we have some GCW events coming up for this weekend. Now, as you know, Friday, which is November 7th, we have You Wouldn't Understand in Hartford, Connecticut. 2 matches have been announced. Tony Deppen will take on Teriyaki. Then we have, of course, Ray Jazz taking on Anthony Green. Then the following day, they will be making their way to Maine, making their official debut, Massacre in Maine, on the 8th of November. Match have announced. We have Marcus Mathers taking on Ace Romero. Yeah, the same very Ace Romero. Many remember where he pounced that one guy off the ring. And then, of course, the following day on Sunday, the 10th of November, they're making also their Vermont debut with Green Mountains and Me. They announced that Maki Ito will take on Celine Hikate. I don't know who that person is, but if anybody knows, please leave a comment down below to tell me who she is. House of Glory will have their upcoming event, Super Clash, on the 15th. Two championship matches have been announced. Now, one, of course, is not officially part of the House of Glory titles. The other one is all the way from Malaysia, the APCAP Wrestling. The current women's champion is Nor Phoenix Diana. Many of you know this. She is the first ever women's wrestler who wrestles in a hijab, covering her head. Well, she put her championship match on the line against someone, as you know, being the belt collector, and that is, of course, the CEO, Mercedes Moné. So she'll be, of course, then that title. But we all know if Mercedes wins, well, she'll be obtaining that belt and become 13 belts already. So we'll see how that rolls. And, of course, the top title, the House of Glory Heavyweight Championship, will be defended. Charles Mason will defend the belt against someone you guys know, Desmond Xavier, better formerly known as Wesley. So yes, he'll be jumping into that. And then finally, on December 19, West Coast Pro will have Winter Wonder Slam. Alan Angels will take on Jaya Jewel. So yes, so those are pretty much the upcoming events. Now let's jump in, of course, to some developments. New Japan has announced that Tomohiro Ishii has suffered a dislocated shoulder 2 weeks ago. So basically, he'll miss out on Tag League this year. He was supposed to team up with Taichi, but now it seems that Taichi will team up with Satoshi Kojima. Still unclear how long he'll be out, but he'll miss out a lot. Now, for some, as you all know, there's been talk about PWG recently. As you know, the Bucks were considering maybe buying out. And of course, many of you may not know this. Excalibur, before he became the commentator for AEW, he was one of the original owners. And of course, he was a wrestler there. But later he became the only sole commentator in PWG. And he had this to talk about. People are saying about how it was if Pro Wrestling Guerrilla shut down. And this is what he said. PWG still, right up till the very end, did not want to do streaming or live distributing or anything. The business model was the same, and a lot was Super Dragon's stubbornness, genius, whatever you want to call it. It was like the way right until the end. And I don't want to say the end is because nothing's been made official. PWG has been on hiatus for a couple years. There's always a chance that it could come back, but I don't want to never say never. But the business model did not evolve at all at that much. Why we are desperate to sell every one of those 500 seats in the Legion Hall. So yes, many of you may not know this. PWG were never the type of person the company that it is what it is. They always were the same. They never sold out the way they did. Like, they never glamorized their product at all. There were people that wanted to buy PWG, but Super Dragon, even though people call him that he's stubborn, but he was a genius, he made it exactly what it is. And that's something you can't take away. Now, of course, there was never any mentions about PWG calling it quits, like we're shutting down for good. They just been on hiatus. We know that Super Dragon took some time off due to family emergency and that sort of thing. So we'll see what happens. Now, Natsupoi, as you know, was mentioned once before by her best friend Suri. She's talking about her enjoyment in pro wrestling has slightly faded after her 10th anniversary. If you guys remember, back in May, she had a 10th anniversary, and things kind of weren't the same after that. And this is what she said regarding of it. From the time I joined Stardom until my 10th anniversary, I kept running without a break. And after the 10th anniversary, I challenged for the world title, thinking I had to carry the feelings of the retired Tam Chan, and that I couldn't abandon my own goals. But later, people around me told me Natsupoi back then looked like she was suffering. And 6 months after the 10th anniversary felt longer than the previous 5 years. That's because somewhere inside me the fire wasn't burning, and the enjoyment of pro wrestling was slightly faded. Serene noticed that. So, yes, as you all know, Serene mentioned that she felt that she's being held captive in stardom. But now I think Natsupoi is willing to agree, yes, maybe something is wrong with her. She's not the same Natsupoi that we know. I mean, how can we forget some of the best matches she had herself? Like, of course, that match with Tam Nakano, teaming up to take on FWC, and of course, what other ones? Her match, of course, where she faced Tam Nakano and beat her, that sort of thing. Those were the moments that we remember, and that fire she had is no longer there. So the real question is how she's going to get back. Well, we don't know. So can't wait to see it. Now, Eddie Kingston, as you know, talked recently on Busted Open Radio. Many of you may know this, that he, along with Jon Moxley, are really good friends in real life. As you all know, Eddie Kingston was out for a while due to an injury. He even revealed that Jon Moxley and his wife, Renee Paquette, often visited him, while he was dealing with his injuries. And that's the kind of person Jon Moxley is. He cares about his friends. And this is what he says. When I was out on injury, not a lot of people came to see me, but Jon did. Jon brought his wife, his kid. He didn't have to. It was like 8 o'clock at night, and I'm like, what are you doing? The baby's gonna eat. Let the baby eat and go to sleep. He was like, nah, they wanted to see you. We didn't talk business. We didn't talk wrestling. We talked life. That's the friendship with Mox. Me and Mox started together out on the independents. We wouldn't see each other at Joe's and hang out with each other. We didn't like a lot of people because there were a lot of fake people in wrestling. And it's pretty easy to speak them if you know you're looking for Jon is not fake. Jon knows I'm not fake. So we just gravitated towards each other and just hung out and had our own inside jokes. When you starve with somebody, you really get to know them. So yes, and I have to say that's really nice of Jon and Moxley and his family, saying they wanted to see you. And it's great that they didn't talk about wrestling or the wrestling business. It was just about them talking about life and all that. And I'm sure that Eddie Kingston felt happy knowing that they came for him, And I think that's one of the things. And I understand about the fake thing because you want to be surrounded by real people that they want to be there, they want to be your friend, hang out, call you saying, hey, what's up, dude, let's go hang out and do something, stuff like that. So it's great that Eddie Kingston has that type of friendship that is there for him, and I'm sure their friendship will go on as long as it goes, till the very end. So that's pretty much it what we have, so let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we have, of course, Ring of Honor and TNA. So a lot of things is going to happen until then. Now, of course, TNA, we're going to be paying attention to what's going to be coming up. We know that many of the Knockouts division are focusing in hopes to bring back the TNA Knockouts World title from Kalani Jordan, and plenty other things are happening. As for Ring of Honor, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm sure we will continue with more of the first ever women's pure wrestling championship tournament, so stay tuned for that as well. If there's any other news updates I might do by itself, I'll let you guys know. I'll probably upload it as soon as possible, and anything else. So until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.